man from the window. I've always been a night owl, working late into the evening in my home office. It was on one of these late nights while staring out my second-floor window that I first saw him. At first, it seemed like a trick of the light. The man stood on the sidewalk across the street, staring directly up at me. His face was shrouded in darkness, but I could feel his eyes piercing through the glass. Chilled, I pulled the blinds down and tried to focus on my work. The next night, he was there again. Same spot, same unyielding stare. This time I turned off my light and peered through the blinds, hoping he would go away if he thought I wasn't watching. But he remained, an ominous silhouette against the streetlight. Days turned into weeks, and the man became a regular fixture of my nights. He never moved, never came closer, just stood there watching. I told my friends about him, but they laughed it off, saying it was probably a harmless prank or some weirdo passing through. One night I decided to confront him. Grabbing a flashlight and my phone, I stormed out of my house, adrenaline pumping. But when I reached the spot where he always stood, there was no one there. I shone my light around, half expecting him to jump out from the shadows, but the street was empty. I turned to go back inside, and that's when I saw it. The man was now standing in my yard, directly under my office window, staring up at where I had been moments before. My heart raced as I realized he had somehow moved without making a sound. I backed away slowly, my mind racing with fear. That night I barely slept. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there watching. The next day I installed security cameras around my house. At least then I would have proof that I wasn't imagining things. For a few nights he didn't appear. I began to hope that maybe he was gone for good. But then, on the fourth night I saw him again. This time he was standing much closer, just at the edge of my driveway. His face was still obscured, but I could feel his gaze more intensely than ever. I checked the security footage, but to my horror, the cameras had captured nothing. The man didn't appear on any of the recordings, as if he were a ghost or a figment of my imagination. Panic set in as I realized that I might never be rid of him. I started closing all the blinds and keeping the lights off at night, hoping he would lose interest if he couldn't see me, but it didn't work. No matter what I did, he was always there. One particularly stormy night, I woke to the sound of tapping on my window. My heart pounded as I slowly approached, dread pooling in my stomach. I pulled back the curtain just enough to peek outside. There he was, right up against the glass, his face inches from mine. For the first time I could see his features clearly, a pale, gaunt face with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. I stumbled back, my scream lost in the thunder. The next day, I decided I couldn't stay there any longer. I packed my things and moved in with a friend across town, hoping distance would sever the connection. For a while it seemed to work. I started to sleep better, and the anxiety that had plagued me began to fade. Then, one night, I glanced out my friend's window, and my blood ran cold. He was there, standing in the driveway, staring up at me with those hollow eyes. He had found me. Desperation gripped me as I realized there was no escape. The man in the window wasn't bound by location or reason. He was a relentless shadow, a harbinger of dread that would follow me wherever I went. And so each night I watch and wait, knowing that somewhere out there he is watching too.